أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير، الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور، الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا، ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت، فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور، ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير، ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين واعتدنا لهم عذاب الصعير، وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير، إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور، تكاد تميز من الغيظ، كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم بظير، تكاد تميز من الغيظ، كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نظير، قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير، وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير، فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير، إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير، وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور، ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير، هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور، أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور، أم أمنتم من في السماء يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نظير، ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو نفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد
محمد وآل محمد صلوات بار دیگر صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم سجاد رہائی پا کر بھی پردیس سے گھر کو آ کر بھی جب اشک بہاتے رہتے تھے زینب سے دکھ دیکھے نہ گئے ایک روز تڑپ یہ پوچھا سجاد تو کب تک روئے گا اس وقت میرے مولا نے کہا اس وقت میرے مولا نے کہا اماں ہے اپنے مقدر پر صغرا کے سوالوں پر کیوں نہ روئے سجاد کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد۔ اے میری پھوپھی انصاف تو کر، نیزے پہ جو دیکھے باپ کا سر۔ اے میری پھوپھی انصاف تو کر، نیزے پہ جو دیکھے باپ کا سر۔ ہو ساتھ سفر میں وہ جس نے چیرا تھا علی اکبر کا جگر۔ ہو ساتھ سفر میں وہ جس نے چیرا تھا علی اکبر کا جگر۔ دروں کی سزا ملتی ہو جہاں، بچوں کو اشک بہانے پر، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد۔ تم چھپ چھپ کر خوں روتی ہو، میں روں تو کیوں کہتی ہو۔ تم چھپ چھپ کر خوں روتی ہو، میں روں تو کیوں کہتی ہو۔ رویا نہ کرو اے لال میرے، بھائی کو گھوا کر بیٹھی ہوں۔ معصوم بہن کو زندہ میں جو چھوڑ کے تنہا یا گھر، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد۔ نیزے سے گھرا میں دیکھ چکا ہوں وہ منظر، نیزے سے گھرا عباس کا سر۔ میں دیکھ چکا ہوں وہ منظر، دربار میں کیوں مر نہ گیا، جب نام تمہارا لے لے کر کہتا تھا لئیں زینب ہے کہاں، لے آؤ یہاں پر بے چادر، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد۔ اور سر تشت میں تھا بابا کا رکھا، اور تخت پہ قاتل بیٹھا تھا۔ سر تشت میں تھا بابا کا رکھا، اور تخت پہ قاتل بیٹھا تھا۔ دندان مبارک پر ان کے خوش ہو کے چھڑی وہ مارتا تھا۔ افسوس میں کچھ بھی کر نہ سکا، اب تک ہے اسی سے درد جگر، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد، کیوں نہ روئے سجاد۔ پر محمد و اہل بیت محمد صلوات۔ Inshallah, without further ado, I'd like to request our respected Maulana Sahib, Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi, to come and present his lecture with loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون. الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد والأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الدائمة الباقية لأعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين. صلوات. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the opportunity to once again to be part of the Azam of Sayyid al-Shuhada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our endeavors and our actions for everyone, from the organizers, the volunteers, the reciters, and the participants. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give us the tawfiq to understand Islam from the perspective of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, so that we can be among the true followers of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Salawat. I would like to conclude this series of discussion with this ayat which I had been reciting before every Majlis, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the chosen ones. Ayat of al-istifa, or verse of selection, where he talks about Adam and then Nuh and then the family of Ibrahim, and especially talking about Ali Imran as a way of restricting the descendants of Ibrahim. Not all of them are worthy of that selection, only those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects. Tonight I would like to actually talk a little bit more about some of the virtues and fadail of this chosen family of the Prophet of Islam, but not in my words. Tonight I wouldn't go for 1 hour. It's a shorter speech, but I have selected the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, in which he talks about the preference that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to Ali Muhammad. And this is not his khutbah. Actually, this is a letter that Imam wrote in response to the letter of Muawiyah. In Nahj al-Balagha, the response of Amir al-Mu'mineen is there. And that is, if you go to the last section, second section of the Nahj al-Balagha, which deals with the letters of the Imam, it's letter number 28. This was actually a letter written by Amir al-Mu'mineen when Muawiyah, during the early days after the Battle of Jamal, he realized that now it's his turn. Imam is going to deal with Muawiyah. And so in order to preempt the situation, he actually wrote this letter in order to provoke the Imam. So that Imam, with the provocation of the letter of Muawiyah, will respond by writing something, using negative words about the Khulafa. And he wanted to use that as a propaganda piece among the people of Sham. There is a whole history behind it, why Muawiyah actually, what was the basis of his confidence in opposing Amir al-Mu'mineen. Syria or Sham, when we talk about it, it's not the present day Syria. In history, when you say Sham, it included present Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and an entire Palestine. So it was a huge country. And that is why in Arabic history, they have a term called Ash-Shamat, plural of Sham. And so this was a very vast territory. Muslims conquered it gradually, starting from the day of the first Khalifa, and then it reached to the peak. Total conquest was during the time of the second Khalifa. But a point just to give you a background of what was the support base of Muawiyah. From day one, Abu Bakr and later on Umar both actually gave the command of the army to the family of Abu Sufyan in conquering Sham. And so his older brother Yazid bin Abi Sufyan was made the governor of Damascus. Muawiyah was appointed the governor of Jordan, and many others. And then after a few years, there was a plague there. Many of the senior officers died. And then Osman, basically, this is those in days of the Osman, that Osman made Muawiyah the governor general of the entire area known as Sham. And so by the time of the Khilafat Zahiri of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Muawiyah is already controlling that vast territory known as Sham for more than 2 decades. And remember, the people of Sham were formerly, or if not converted yet, they were all Christians. They had never seen Rasulullah. They had not gone to Medina. They didn't know many of the Ashab. Whatever Islam was fed to the people of Sham was fed through the lenses of Ali Abi Sufyan. And this is where he had built his support base. And so when Amir al-Mu'mineen comes to power with the insistence of the people in Medina, one of the first one who actually refused to do bay'at to Amir al-Mu'mineen was Muawiyah. And this is how he was relying on his own support base. And in order to basically galvanize his own people in Sham, because he had projected himself to the people of Sham that we are from the tribe of Rasulullah. And Ali and Ali were projected in Sham as those who were opposed to the Ashab and the Khulafa and Rasulullah. This was the image that he had created of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the minds of the people of Sham. And so now he wanted something more. In a written from Ali. So he wrote a letter, basically trying to provoke him. And what he does was he starts talking about, oh, Allah has blessed us, the Quraysh, by sending a prophet among us. And now he's talking to Ali, huh? Just think about it. Audacity of Muawiyah praising Rasulullah to Ali. And then he says that after Rasulullah, salawat brother. Then he writes that after Rasulullah, the best among the Ummah was the first Khalifa, and after him the second Khalifa, and then after him the third Khalifa. And then he says, you are the one responsible for the murder of the third Khalifa. And then, talks about even blaming Ali for the Battle of Jamal. And so he does this by praising the Khulafa, that he wanted Ali to respond to this. And then he will be able to use that letter, see that Ali is bad-mouthing the Khulafa. Amir al-Mu'mineen, and this is where we have to learn the technique of how to respond to provocation. We are still very, behind in this technique. Amir al-Mu'mineen is basically provoked, and I'll come to the height of provocation at the end of the letter. Amir al-Mu'mineen responds to Muawiyah. He writes what he wanted to write without, giving in to his provocation. He didn't give him the opportunity to use his letter, against him, regarding the Khulafa. And so let me just first, talk about the letter briefly. Salawat Pranay. One of the difficulties with Nahj Balagha is that this letter in Nahj Balagha, letter number 28, is a response of Ali to Muawiyah's letter. Nahj Balagha doesn't have the initial letter of Muawiyah. But the commentators, people like Ibn Abi Hadid Mu'tazili and others, have actually given the entire letter of Muawiyah. So you need to actually read the letter of Muawiyah first before you understand, how Amir al-Mu'minin is dealing with his response. So Amir al-Mu'minin starts after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, he writes to Muawiyah that, we come to see new things about you. You are praising Rasulullah to us. I was raised in his house. I knew his status, his fadilat, his nubuwwat. I was with him all the time. So you are describing Rasulullah to me. First of all, this is where you have to realize. And the ni'mat that you are talking about that Allah gave to Quraysh, it is to my family. I am a member of that family of Rasulullah. And so he says, your example of somebody trying to praise Rasulullah to me is the example of kanaqil al-tamr ila Hajar. Hajar was an area in Bahrain and Qatif area. This is very well known for they have plentiful, khurma production. And so there is a proverb among Arabs that a merchant from Basra was traveling to Bahrain, and he thought, since I'm going there, I should take in a commodity which I can sell there. He didn't know much about what is there. He reached there and he realized that this is actually their more, major export commodity of Bahrain itself. So I'll use the present example. Somebody trying to sell oil, petrol to Saudi Arabia or Iran. But they are the major, suppliers around the world. So this is what Amir al-Mu'minin says, your example is like this person. You are describing Rasulullah to me while you were actually his enemy all the time until the victory of Makkah. So what do you know about Rasulullah? And then he says, then he comes to the second part, the main point where Muawiyah praises the Khulafa, and that was actually with the intention of provoking Ali so that he would criticize the Khulafa. And here, Amir al-Mu'mineen really puts him down in such a manner. He says, وَزَعَمْتَ أَنَّ أَفْضَلَ النَّاسِ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ فَلَا وَفَلَا. He says, so you have said after Rasulullah, the best in the ummah is so and so. Ali doesn't even mention the name. فَذَكَرْتَ أَمْرًا إِن تَمَّ اعْتَذَرَكَ كُلُّهُ. You had mentioned something that, so and so was the best of the ummah after Rasulullah, and the second one was the best after him. Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'minin says, if what you have written is valid, it doesn't benefit you. You're talking about their praise, you didn't get anything out of it. وَإِن نَقَصَ. And if you are deficient in what you're saying, you are not, complete or truthful on this matter, it doesn't harm you. وَمَا أَنْتَ وَالْفَاضِلُ وَالْمَفْضُولُ وَالسَّائِلِ وَالْمَسُوسُ. Who are you to decide who is up and who is down? Who is afdal and who is mafzul? Who is the best one in the ummah and who is lesser one in the ummah? ما للطلقاء وأبناء الطلقاء والتمييز بين المهاجرين الأولين وترتيب درجاتهم وتعريف طبقاتهم. He uses the term for Muawiyah. I'm sure he must have felt, very angry there. Talaqa is plural of the word taliq. Taliq means a freed slave, a person who has been freed by the owner. In the conquest of Mecca, there is the last years of Rasulullah's life. In the conquest of Mecca, there was no war. All the people of Mecca surrendered. According to the Shia and Sunni rules of jihad, Rasulullah had a right to make each one of them his personal slaves, because the Muslim army didn't do anything. The city surrendered by itself because of the power that they saw of the Muslim army. And so what did Rasulullah do on that day? He addressed the people of Mecca and said, "You knew me from my childhood. Yet you opposed me when I started the mission of Islam at every step, until you forced me to leave my own hometown. And I did, hijrah to Medina. Even then, you did not leave me alone. You came and fought against me, battle after battle. So what should I do with you?" They say, "Well, we are like, you are Yusuf, we are your brothers. You forgive us." That is where Rasulullah said to them that, "I can make you my slaves, but go, antumut talaqa. Go, you are freed slaves." Means I could have made each one of you, including Abu Sufyan and Muawiyah, my slave, but I am making you free. Ali uses that term to remind him of what he's talking about Rasulullah, where Rasulullah had no respect for him at all. وَمَا لِلطُّلَقَاءِ وَأَبْنَاءِ الطُّلَقَاءِ. He says, what do these freed slaves and the sons of the freed slaves, what have that to do? What right do they have to, classify the muhajirin and the ashab of Rasulullah, that who is better and who is lesser? What is your position? You don't even have that background, to judge about the early muhajirin and ashab of Rasulullah, وَتَرْتِيبِ دَرَجَاتِهِمْ, and to classify them, that he is at this first and he is the second and he is third, وَتَعْرِيفِ طَبَقَاتِهِمْ, to put them in different classes. And this is where he says, you should actually look at your own origin. وَتَعْرِفْ قُصُورَ ذَرْعِكَ, look at the deficiency in yourself. وَتَتَأَخَّرَ حَيْثُ أَخَّرَكَ الْقَدْرِ, and just go back, stay behind where the destiny has put you at the back. Salawat Pranik Para. So he doesn't talk about the Khulafa at all. He doesn't criticize the Khulafa at all. He just, uses that to put Muawiyah himself down. And then he says, أَلَا تَرَى غَيْرَ مُخْبِرٍ لَكَ وَلَكِنْ بِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ أُحَدِّثُ. Then he talks about his own family. And this is why I'm relating it to this ayat, where Allah talks about Al Ibrahim as the chosen family. He says, look at the status that I and my family have. And he says, I'm not really giving you anything new information. Everybody knows about it. But this is the blessing of Allah upon us. And then he gives actually two very specific examples. He says, look at the Muslims, even the Ashab. إِنَّ قَوْمًا اسْتَشْهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَلِكُلِّ فَضْلٍ. He says, in the various battles, the Muhajirin were there and fighting. and many of them became shaheed. And each one of them has a fadilat by himself. حتى إذا استشهد شهيدنا, but when the first shaheed from our family became shaheed, first person from our family became a shaheed, he was given the title Sayyid al-Shuhada, referring to Hamza, the uncle of Rasulullah, and uncle of Ali. That all these Muhajirin who had died before as shaheed, they have their own fadilat and their own status. But when a member from my family is killed, Rasulullah gives him the title Sayyid al-Shuhada. وخصه رسول الله ب70 تكبيرة عند صلاته عليه. And Rasulullah actually recited 70 takbir on janazah of Hamza. Normally in namaz janazah you only have 5 takbirat. What used to happen in the battle of, at the end of battle of Uhud, they will bring the body of the shuhada, 1 or 2, and even the body of Hamza was there. And then they will replace the other shuhada with the ones on whose janazah was not recited. But Rasulullah would say, leave my uncle's body there. And totally he actually, in doing that, he recited 14 times namaz janazah on the shuhada and individually, but when Hamza, it comes to 14 namaz janazah, and that's where you have 70 takbirat. And so Ali says that, see, that is the difference between my family and the rest of the ummah. Salawat. Then he says, أَوَلَا تَرَى أَنَّ قَوْمًا قُطِعَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. He says, in various battles there were many shuhada from us, from the Muslims, whose hands were cut. We have, in history, we have example of Khubayr al-Ansari and Mu'adh bin Jabal, whose hands were cut in Badr. Then you have example of Amr al-Salmi and Ubayd bin Tahyan, whose hands were cut in the battle of Uhud. وَلِكُلِّ فَضْلٌ. He says all of them whose hands were cut in their shahadat, they have their own fazilat, their own status and virtue. But then he says, حَتَّى إِذَا فُعِلَ بِوَاحِدِنَا. But when one from my family, his hand was cut, referring to his brother, قِيلَ الطَّيَّارُ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Rasulullah gave the title to Ja'far bin Abi Talib, that he is at-tayyar fil jannah. Allah has given him wings to fly in the heaven. And he's also known as Zul Janahain. Somebody has 2 wings. So again, he's showing the difference that, yes, the ashab who were killed, they had their own status. But when somebody from Banu Hashim, the family of the Prophet, is killed, they have a different status. And then he says, وَلَوْلَا مَا نَحَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُ مِنْ تَزْكِيَّةِ الْمَرْءِ نَفْسَهُ. If Allah has not forbidden self-glorification, I would have talked about myself quite a lot. But He doesn't. He doesn't. He says, I would have talked quite a lot so that the hearts of the mu'mineen would accept it, and those who listen to it will be agreeable to it. But he says, I will only leave you with one point about himself and his family. He says, فَإِنَّ صَنَائِعَ رَبِّنَا وَالنَّاسِ بَعْدُ صَنَائِعْنَا. All the blessings that we get from Allah comes to us directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the blessings to the people goes through us. We become the wasila for the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat. And then he says to Muawiyah, لم يمنعنا قديم عزنا ولا عادي طولنا على قومك أن خلطناكم بأنفسنا. He says, in spite of all this difference, between your status and your family and my family, we still decided to interact with you. فَنَكَحْنَا وَأَنْكَحْنَا. We even married one another. You know, one of the uncles of Rasulullah, Abu Lahab, was married to Jamil, who was the sister of Abu Sufyan, Muawiya's aunt. And so he says, we still interacted with you. We even married in your family. فعل الأكفاء, like equals. وَلَسْتُمْ هُنَاكَ, although you are not equal. وَعَنَّ يَكُونُ ذَلِكَ كَذَلِكَ. How can it be that you be equal to us? Then he gives 4 examples. He says, مِنَّ النَّبِي وَمِنْكُمُ الْمُكَذِّبِ. The Nabi was from us, but the rejecter of Nabi, Abu Sufyan, your father, is from your family. Minna Asadullah, the lion of Allah, referring to Hamza, Sayyid al-Shuhada, is from us. Wa minkum Asadul Ahlaf, whereas the lion of the allied forces is from your family. Utbah bin Rabi'ah, who was the grandfather of Muawiyah. He says, Minna Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl Jannah, the youths of the chief of the youths of paradise are from my family, my sons. وَمِنْكُمْ سِبْيَانُ النَّارِ, and the youths of Jahannam are from your family, referring to Utbah bin Abi Mu'ayt. وَمِنَّا خَيْرُ نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ, from my family, my wife is the best of the women of the world. وَمِنْكُمْ حَمَّالَةُ الْحَطَبِ, whereas the wife of Abu Lahab is from your family. So don't compare yourself to us. You are not equal to us. We are at a different level and you are at a different level. Salawat padhna ek baar aur. And he says that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that the people who are close to Ibrahim are the one, referring to Rasulullah and those who believed in him and supported him. He says on both this basis, we are closest to Rasulullah. We are related to Rasulullah and we supported and obeyed Rasulullah, unlike you and your family. And so this is where we see that, Amir al-Mu'mineen basically responds to Muawiyah in a very, very strong words, but did not give in to the provocation that Muawiyah had in his letter, that he might end up writing negative things of the Khulafa, that Muawiyah would use it then among the people of Sham, because for them Khulafa were there at the top after Rasulullah. But the height of provocation in that letter is at the end. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, you have mentioned that, you have an army and your swords are ready to come and fight with me. Responding to that, Ali says, I would like to remind you that the sword that I use to kill your ancestors and your relatives is still with me. But the last point, which Muawiyah wanted to, I would consider to be the height of provocation, that Ali might say something against Abu Bakr or Umar. He says to Ali, Muawiyah in his letter, he says, you are asking me to do bay'at to you, to pledge allegiance to you. Remember we hear about in the days of Fatimiyya, some people raise this question, is it true? Did this happen? Was the house attacked or not? And I ask you to go and look at that letter. Look at what Muawiyah is saying and what is the response of Ali to that. You don't then need to go here and there. We are talking about early days. This is the days when Ali is alive. Muawiyah, in order to provoke Ali, he says, you are asking me to do bay'at to you. Did you forget the day where you were dragged with a rope on your neck like a camel? And you were dragged with the demand for the pledge of allegiance. When did this happen? This happened when they attacked the house. You know, those who say this didn't happen, what is Muawiyah is writing? Muawiyah is now confirming the zulm which was done against Fatima and Ali. You don't need to go here and there, although we have more, evidence for that. And he uses that as a way of provoking Ali, so that now he might say something against Abu Bakr, and he can use that in front of the people of Sham. But Ali, again, this is where we had to understand the wisdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen. How to deal with this kinds of situation. You don't give in to provocation. He responds to that last part of the provocation of Muawiyah. He says, you have tried to humiliate me here. Because he is saying to Ali, you forgot the day you were being dragged like a camel through the noose. You were being dragged in that way with the demand of allegiance. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, you tried to degrade me, humiliate me, but you do not realize you have actually praised me. Because for a mu'min, to be zalim would be a blame, but to be a mazloom, it is not a blame for a mu'min. He's saying, I was a mazloom in that situation. And this is where we have to realize that Muawiyah now is saying himself, Ali is accepting. He doesn't say, oh, what rubbish you are talking about. Nothing happened. No. He says, it happened. You were trying to humiliate me, but you do not realize that you have elevated my status. Because I was not zalim in that case, I was a mazloom. And there is nothing shameful for a mu'min to be mazloom as long as he is steadfast on his iman. Salawat padhne ek baar aur. If you look at this letter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you will see that when he is talking about the fadail of this chosen family, he is not only referring to the ma'asumeen among them. So we will only have 14 people individually. And at that time it's Rasulullah, Fatima, Ali, Hasan and Hussein. But no, you will see he talks about Ja'far, he talks about Hamza. And this is where we have to realize that, yes, the infallible ones are at the top in this selection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But those who were close to them, especially those who are related to them by blood, they also have acquired that status of being chosen in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a different level, at a different degree. When we talk about the family of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he was a ma'soom. Imam Zainul Abidin was ma'soom. But when you talk about other members of the Banu Hashim, this is where you come to realize that Imam Hussain alayhi salam recites this ayat on that day when Ali Akbar is living. إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين. In that way, even Ali Akbar is on that level. When you talk about Abbas, he's not a masoom, but he is on that level. When you talk about Bibi Zainab, she is definitely on that level. When we use this term, Sharikatul Hussein, this is not poetry. This is not, just exaggeration. This is the reality. Because the mission of Hussein started from Medina, and he finished his task on the day of Ashura by the Shahadat. But the mission continued after that under the leadership of Zainab bint Ali. I have actually a booklet on this issue. You can even download from the website that I have. I've written it in both languages, in Urdu version of it and English also, where I talked about the background of how Syria was conquered and what is the impact of Bibi Zainab. But I'll leave it that for you to go and read, or maybe some other time, if we come back, inshallah, to Australia. But tonight, as a Masa'ib, I would say even the children of Karbala, in a way, fit that description of being the chosen ones. Imam Hasan alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, and this is especially for the young people, on the day of Ashura, addressing the Yazidi forces, he said something which is very profound. Just think about it. At that moment on the earth, there was no one at a higher level in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than Hussein ibn Ali. There was no one who was more knowledgeable and eloquent and wise on the face of the earth than Hussein ibn Ali. He is addressing the Yazidi army, and yet they are not responding positively. A time comes where he says, "Ma lakum," what has happened to you? I am talking to you and you do not even listen to me. And then he says, I realize the reason why you are not heeding to my words, because قَدْ مُلِعَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ بِالْحَرَامِ, because your bellies are filled with haram. It means sometimes, we have the intelligence. We have the power of hearing. We can see the speaker. The speaker might be the most eloquent and knowledgeable person, but there could be a barrier that you do not heed to the message. And this is what Imam is saying. One of the reasons of that barrier would be haram food. So don't take this issue lightly. It's not only that you look for, is there a scientific reason behind this being haram or that had been being haram? There might not be no scientific reason for it, but it might have a spiritual, impact in receiving the hidayat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When this caravan was now entering into Kufa, Ibn Ziyad had ordered that all the men should come out on the street, on the route, from the gate of the city to the palace of the governor. And the women also, to see what's going on, went on their rooftops to see. And when this caravan came in, the women and children were sitting on this mahmil, on the litter on the camel, without any covering. There was no parda. And their outer, chadar had been taken away. When the caravan moves in slowly into the town, the women on the rooftop were looking at the women and the children. They were not looking at the spears which had the heads on it. And the women realized that these children look hungry. Women are more softer and merciful. And some of them started, because there is plentiful of dates and khurma in Kufa and region. They started, taking the khurmas that they had and started throwing towards the mahmils on which Ahl Haram were sitting. We have a narration where some of the khurmas, dates fall on the litter in which Zainab and Sakina were sitting. Remember Sakina or Ruqayya, whatever name you use? She's a 4-year-old child. They have gone through hunger and thirst. They might have been given a little bit before, after the shahadat. But very instantly, she took one khurma and put her in her mouth. Bibi Zainab noticed that. She extended her hand and took out the khurma from the mouth of Sakina. And I would say, Bibi, she is a very, she's a minor child. She is not even baligha. The rules of halal and haram don't apply to her. If she, under this very difficult situation, is eating that khurma, it would be okay. But no, Zainab would respond to us in the words of Imam Hasan alayhi salam. She took that khurma towards the house from where the khurma had come. And she says, "O people, remember, Nahnu asara ahlul bayt, we are members, prisoners from the member of the Prophet's family. Inna sadaqata alayna haram. Sadaqah is haram for us. We will not even allow our minor children to eat what is haram for us." Even in that situation, there was a maid or a slave girl who heard these words. And she ran to her home of her mistress further down on the street. And she says, "I heard something very unusual from one of the prisoners, this lady." And he says, "What is it?" He says, "This lady is saying, we are the family of the Prophet, inna sadaqata alayna haram." The mistress of this slave girl stood up. She said, "What are you talking about? This is only applicable to Ali and Fatima's children and descendants." She goes on the roof with the slave girl. And then she points that is the camel on which this lady uttered those words. When that camel came close, this was the lady known as Habiba, who had actually served the family of Ali in the past. And when Zainab's camel came close, she asked, "Oh lady, where are you from?" And Zainab said, "I'm from Medina." "Which neighborhood of Medina?" "From Banu Hashim." She says, "Do you know Hussein ibn Ali?" Zainab said, "Why you are asking this?" She said, "I have served them. I have served the family of Fatima. I have served the children of Fatima. And I have this desire to go and visit Hussein ibn Ali, to do ziyarat of Hussein ibn Ali." And this is where Zainab actually exposes her face fully. He says, "Oh Habiba, you don't have to go far. I am Zainab bint Ali wa Fatima. You want to do the ziyarat of Hussein, you don't have to go to Medina. Look at that spear and the head which is there. That is the head of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. खुदावंद इसके लिए बात कबूल फरमा, हमारे गुनाहों को बख्श दे, हमारी तौफीक़ात में इजाफ़ा फरमा। खुदावंद हमें सलाहियत दे कि हम लोग सही मानों में अली और आले अली की पैरवी कर सकें। खुदावंद आलम इस्लाम में सुलह और अमन की फ़िज़ा पैदा कर, तकफ़ीरी अफ़वाज की तमाम सलाहियतों को नीस्त नाबूद फरमा। इमाम की ज़ुहूर में ताजिर फरमा। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम।
حسین یا 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 حسین اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے کیسا ہے یہ چراغا دل ڈوبے جا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں ہونے لگی اذانیں کیسے سروں کو ڈانپے بازو بندے ہوئے ہیں خون رو رہی ہے آنکھیں آنکھوں کے خون سے رستے خون میں نہا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اما بتا دے مجھ کو نیزوں پہ جتنے سر ہیں ایک سر ہے ان میں ایسا آنکھیں ہیں بند اس کی اور خاک پر ہے گرتا عباس کا یہ سر ہے تیور بتا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اما فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں یا حسین اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی اصغر بے شیر جیسی عباس کی رو رہی ہے سوچ کر رو رہی ہے سوچ کر البنی ہے آج بھی اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی اصغر بے شیر جیسی رشک کرتی تھی میں اکسے حیدر کرار پر پاؤں خط دیتے تھے اس کے بیٹھ کر راوار پر ہائے میرے شیر کی ہائے میرے شیر کی یہ کیسی حالت ہو گئی اصغر بے شیر جیسی عباس کی اصغر بے شیر جیسی مر کے بھی اس نے نبھایا مجھ سے جو وعدہ کیا اپنے بیٹے کی وفا پر فخر ہے مجھ کو بڑا اب نہیں اصغر کی ماں سے اب نہیں اصغر کی ماں سے کچھ مجھے شرمندگی اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی اصغر بے شیر باپ کے بدلے مسلمانوں نے بیٹے سے لیے سر جدا ہے تن جدا بازو جدا ہیں شیر کے آپ کی تصویر ٹکڑے آپ کی تصویر ہو گئی ہے عالی اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے कौन लड़ सकता था उससे, किसमें था इतना जिगर। सुनती हूँ 9 लाख ने मारा है उसको घेर कर। लाश भी उसकी सलामत, लाश भी उसकी सलामत, दश्त में रहने न दी। असगरे बेशीर जैसी असगरे बेशीर जैसी कब्र है। वो वाबिदे बीमार था, वो वाबिदे बीमार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, से जो लाचार था। और शाम का बाजार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और मुस्तफ़ा की बेटियां मौला इमाम या हसन हुसैन, मौला हक इमाम हसन या हुसैन, मौला हक इमाम या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन। शब्बीर की वो लाडली, शब्बीर की लाडली, हाय सीने पे जोश आके पली, पली जिसकी अबा बन में जली, जिसकी अबा बन में जली, मुंह पर तमाचों के निशान। हसन या हुसैन, मौला इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, मौला इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन। मोहम्मद व आल मोहम्मद सलवात।
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Before we do the ziyarat, I just say a few words, if you don't mind. If I could ask Brother Bakr just to turn the lights on. If you don't mind, just bear with me. If I could please ask Maulana, if you don't mind, if I could just ask you to come in for a few seconds in front, if you don't mind. It's not another my turn for Majlis, Maulana. Let's just send a shiver through Maulana. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So, Maulana, firstly, apologies. I know you've had to put up with me in the car for the last 2 weeks or so. That must have been a difficult process in itself. But I was very fortunate. I learned more in those few minutes in the car with him, with Maulana, and some of the history he was telling me. So if you ever get a chance to be with Maulana in the car, I definitely tell you it's worth doing it there. One small other anecdote. On the 8th night of Muharram, I got a phone call after the program was finished. I was at home, and I got a phone call from Maulana. And he questioned, he says, Abbas, was everything okay today? And I said, I was worried because I thought, oh God, what's happened? We've done something wrong. It's the aura of Maulana who was there. And I said, no, it was okay. Everything was fine. He says, what happened with the matam there on that night? And because, when we bring the alam of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, and it was really pleasing to see that Maulana, saw, and he said, was my Masai very powerful that I should wind it down a little bit for the next days? No, I'm adding that part there to it there. But Alhamdulillah, it was nice to see that Maulana got to know our community. And, I explained to him the 8th night, Hazrat Abbas's night, and on the Ashura day, we do the matam a little bit differently. And it was wonderful to see this year how many youth were involved in, especially on that 8th night. I wasn't well myself, so I was standing back and just watching it, and it was wonderful. Alhamdulillah, may Allah, through the words and guidance of Maulana, really keep that feeling in the heart for our children and continue there. In there. On behalf of Imam Hasan Center, however, I would really thank Maulana for his time with us. He has been very accommodating for the changes, and also being asked to read English on Sham-e Ghariba at the last minute when he came here. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with him, to see him interact with people. He's one of the few scholars that I've seen that the akhlaq of the person is just phenomenal. He has always had time for everybody who was talking to him, And he has his way of actually, even if you hear his speech, it just delivers and he just holds you there, you know. And I'm sure you all saw it as he spoke there. It's been an absolute pleasure on my half to listen to them. And I'm sure you all enjoyed the Urdu, I'm sure, and the English. There is only one complaint. I think he was too hard on the husbands, and he didn't balance it. I don't think he balanced it out as eagerly. Am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong on that issue? So, inshallah, Maulana, thank you very much on behalf of those who are here and those who are not here today as well, because, you know, but everyone, the numbers we've had here during our recitation. Oh, one Maulana says, you know, I asked him, Maulana, what are the numbers like in Toronto? He says, you know, for Juma, we have about 500 to 600 or something along those lines. I said, okay. And he says, it's about 4,000 or 5,000 or more, you know, when we have. I said, we're not quite that big, just 1 0 less. We were about there. But inshallah, it's been wonderful to have you. I hope we do get you back here in Australia again. I can put you on the spot that you'll at least consider. I know it's a long trip and to consider to come back again. And I would love to hear the history lecture series. Today, the story that you presented and the letter and how it was presented, it was really, really an eye-opening for me to see the history of this battle between these two sides well before Karbala. So inshallah, can I put you and ask you on this night to please consider to come to Imam Hasan Center again as soon as possible.
Well, first of all, you know, thank you for your words. May Allah accept from us and give us the tawfiq to continue the work in the right way. What I would say is that, you know, I just wanted to commend the community, the parents especially, for bringing their younger children in the main program. There has been a new trend is starting in the West where I see, you know, children have one program, youths have another, and then the adults and seniors are left for the main Majlis. I think this is where they learn the akhlaq and adab and etiquette of sitting in the Majlis. And I commend you for that, and I hope you can continue and increase that. Yes, you can have, you know, for very young ones who do not understand anything, you can have a special program for them, but this is how they come to learn, you know, the language and even the akhlaq of sitting in a Majlis. You know, since Abbas Ali mentioned this issue of complaint on behalf of the men, you reminded me I forgot one part of the whole discussion.
Uh-oh.
And so I'll just say it to complete the whole discussion. Once a person came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he, you know, was saying, Rasulullah, if I had to do something good to anyone, whom should I choose? And he said, your mother. Then he repeated. Again, Rasulullah said, your mother. Third time also, the same answer. It's only the fourth time he says, your father. You know, so somebody put it very beautifully where he says, you know, the gold and silver and bronze went to the mother, and the husband got, the father got the consolation prize only.
Ouch. The teachers in the madrasa, especially my wife, would be smiling here because I've banned that song. You know, they have about the 3 times of that. No, I haven't banned it, but I say it's unfair for the fathers. But no, you're 100% right. It is something, inshallah, to have our mothers have done a terrific job to look after the kids as well. You'd have seen it was pin drop silence during most of the program and during the namaz. It is a real credit to the fathers for choosing their wives so well. Inshallah, I have to win some things here, Maulana. But again, inshallah, Maulana, we hope to see you in Sydney soon. Maulana's workshop you've seen when we're on the Kums one. I'll share the website, the books. Inshallah, I'll try and get the copies of the books and have them here for Maulana. It is a long, long flight from Toronto to here. So Jannah is far, Maulana. So, you know, it's a practice to keep coming here. So, but we look forward to having you here. Also, while I have Maulana here, and I'm sure Maulana will agree with me, nothing happens without volunteers. Nothing happens without volunteers. and to all the volunteers. Today is not the day to name every single one of you, but I know how cold it was outside because I couldn't make it. I had to give up after some time. I know how hard it was in the kitchen. I know everything that was done before the programs, the AV, the vacuuming, and everything else. To you all, my sincere thanks on behalf of the community. And I'm sure Maulana would agree that without you, this doesn't happen. So really, really, may Allah bless you and to help you continue that work as well, inshallah. And I'll give the last word to Maulana if he'd like to give us any last word of wisdom, and then we can have the ziyarat.
No, I'll just say this, as far as the volunteer is concerned, remember that any Husainiya or Imam Bargah is the Bargah of Hussein ibn Ali. And those who are coming there are the Azadar of Hussein, and you as volunteers are Khadim of Hussein ibn Ali. It's not that much different from the Khuddam that you see in Karbala. Inshallah, may Allah bless you all.
Maulana, if I could ask you to lead the ziyarat for us to finish the program, if it's okay with you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa amir al-mu'minin, assalamu alaikum wa Fatima al-Zahra, assalamu ala jaddika wa abika, assalamu ala ummika wa akhika wa awladika al-ma'asumin jameen wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليكم معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليكم مغششية والزوار فيهم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك صاحب الأسر والزمان، السلام عليك خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى زورك مخرجك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتئه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. There's a kind request to recite one Surah Al-Fatiha for Marhum Bakr Hussein, Munir Hussein, who's passed away this morning.